Well, it isn't every day you need a 458 Lott, but when you need one, you really need one. Obviously, this is a dangerous game rifle. Think big brown bears and grizzly bears, Cape buffalo in Africa, charging lions and rhinos. This is a big cartridge with a 500 grain bullet, cranking out 2,300 feet per second of velocity. That adds up to about 5,500 to 5,800 foot-pounds of energy. And believe you me, you're going to feel it. But this is a designed rifle for professional hunters, their backup rifle. A PH in Africa is going to be carrying something like this day in and day out to make sure when the stuffings hit the wall, they're going to be able to take care of any problems. So the whole idea with this is to have an extremely reliable rifle that will shoot accurately enough to stop a charge at really close range, which is why this target we showed you is only shot at 50 yards. And it's not very often you shoot farther than that for dangerous game, even as a hunter. And as a hunter, I would consider a rifle like this, if I weren't crazy in love with walnut stocks. This tough synthetic stock, hand-laid, extremely stiff. This thing's designed for rugged durability. A PH is going to be dragging this through the rocks and thorns and lion claws for probably decades. So he needs good, rugged, reliable performance. And that is what this Park West Arms SD-76 rifle is designed to do. Now, Park West Arms is essentially building the Dakota 76 rifle. That rifle was designed, I do believe, in 1976 when Dakota started in Sturgis, South Dakota. But when Remington picked it up and then went belly up, a new company bought the rights to build these things, but they weren't able to get the name, as I understand it. So they changed the name from Dakota to Park West, but it's the same rifle. They've got some improvements here. They used to call this, I believe, the Professional, and they took it to Africa in a slightly different guise and had Werner von Seidlitz, a PH from Namibia, check it out and get his ideas on what he might add to it or take away from it. And I remember one of the things he said he wanted was a larger bolt handle so he'd be sure to get a hold of it in a tight situation. So they enlarged the bolt handle. They've still got all the classics on here. And I think they added this red dot sight. A lot of PHs now are playing around with those because they are so quick to get on target. And I've tried them, and when you put a red dot on a black side of a buffalo, you know where you're aiming. No black crosshairs on black. So something that he's going to be playing around with, I'm going to shoot it here as well. But this rifle, of course, has all the classics. You've got your rear leaf express sight. It's a very shallow V in it with this gold line right in the middle, so it's really quick and easy for your eye to pick that up and then align the bead front sight. Now, on the front sight, that bead can be protected if you want with a hood that slides over it. It's removable. That keeps it from getting knocked out, dinged, but also keeps it shaded in case the light glares off of it. As you can see, 458, they decided let's make it available with a brake. You can turn that brake off if you don't like it, but this would really control your muzzle jump and help you stay on target. Going to be heck on the ears, but if you've got a lion coming at you, I think you'd rather kill the lion than save your hearing, because if the lion gets to you, you might not hear forever. So the real critical part on this one, I think, is the controlled round feed action. And I have discussed that many times, but let's go over it again. By the way, they have got just one slick little technique for bolt release. This lever pulls out. It is flush with the rifle. And then when you pull it out, you remove your bolt. You don't have a hump of any kind sticking out, as most rifles do right there for their bolt releases. Really like that. But this is what makes the Mauser 98, the Winchester Model 70, the old CZ 500s famous. It's the controlled round feed system and this big spring on the outside of the bolt for controlling that cartridge. And the way it works is when you push forward and you pick up the cartridge from the magazine, it snaps out of the magazine and underneath that big claw. That claw has a lot of surface area hanging onto that, so you know you're going to extract. Even if it's a hot load and it wants to stick in the chamber, that big thing's going to pull it out. But the controlled part that is so interesting, we will demonstrate. I will put a round down, and we will slide that bolt in to show how things are going to start. I can get him in there. There we go. So when I push forward, you can see how it's caught the upper edge of the rim of that case just on the bottom face of the bolt, and it pushes it out of the magazine. The spring is shoving up on it. It springs loose from the magazine and gets up underneath that hook. So if I go forward to chamber that round and I get excited and don't turn that bolt down and then come back because my rifle won't fire and I go, what's wrong? I got to stop this buffalo. I pull back and look what comes out. What I thought was a fired cartridge is a live cartridge, but at least I got it out of there. I didn't leave it in. The push feeds would leave it in the chamber, and then you would pick up a second round and jam it against it. That's why professional hunters or anyone facing dangerous game like the controlled round feed. And that is a big, big feature on a rifle like this. The other thing that I like, and I think most professionals do, is this 3-position safety. When it's all the way back, the bolt is locked down. So there's never a chance that when you're going through the brush, some branch gets caught up underneath there, and as you push through, it lifts it up and it falls out your cartridge. You're walking around with an empty gun. Don't want that. But if you're getting near the action, you can push it into the middle position, position number 2, and now your bolt is functioning, but the trigger is still not setting off that round, so it's still on safe. And then it's just one quick push forward and there you go. So now we have a classic hinged floor plate down here for getting all your rounds out, and it's a real strong spring. It's up inside of the trigger bow here, and you have to give it a really good press, but there would come out all of your rounds. Now, some guys are worried about that springing open. Seems to me this one is pretty well built. It's not gonna accidentally spring open, but you will notice that it's a slightly bowed here. They've enlarged it enough to get an extra round down. I don't even know how many they're putting down. I'm gonna guess it's 4. Let's just try it. 1, 2, 3 buffalo, 4 buffalo. And of course, you could put one in the chamber if you're expecting to go into battle here. And with your fingers, push down that last round. Oh, won't quite right over it. I thought I was going to do it, but it's catching it. Not quite enough depth to pull that one off. Oh, there it is. I just wasn't pushing far enough. There we go. Now we're loaded with 5 rounds. I think someone going after a wounded leopard or buffalo would appreciate that. You'll notice up front we have a barrel band with a sling attachment. Why would they put a sling stud on a barrel? That is going to affect the vibration of the barrel and probably your accuracy. Well, you're not too concerned about super accuracy when you're hunting dangerous game at close range. What you want is a rifle that's going to function well and not screw you up. And if you had a swivel stud sticking out right here and you went up to shoot, that big recoil could slide your hand up and give you a pretty good cut on your finger. So they put them up on the barrel. It's classic. It's been on the big bores in Africa for decades and decades. Does have screw holes here for mounting scope on the receiver. Don't think too many people are putting a scope on a rifle like this, but they did put this red dot on, and that's getting to be quite popular with a lot of dangerous game hunters. So you could pop it off and then use your open sights. They've got a muzzle brake out front. Now that is going to be really, really loud. But again, if there's a buffalo charging you and you're gonna be dead, I think I'd rather have my ears ringing than be dead the next morning. But if you want, you can take that off. Still gonna be a pretty loud report. But the advantage of this, of course, is controlling your muzzle for fast follow-up shots. So Mr. Buffalo is coming in and you shoot him once and you shoot him twice, your recoil is going to be moderated enough so that you can get back on target more quickly. That's the value in a muzzle brake on a big rifle like this. Talked about the larger bolt handle, I believe. That is about it. Good decelerator recoil pad here, kind of a standard. We're going to see just how effective that is because we are about to shoot this. Now, I didn't weigh this, but it's not all that heavy. I'm guessing this is only an 8-pound rifle, which seems kind of weird for a big hard kicker. But again, remember, this is designed for the hunters in Africa for day after day. They're carrying it all the time. They're going to be dragging this around all day, day after day, and they do not need 13 pounds on their shoulders. Back in the old days when they carried 12 and 13 pound side-by-side double rifles for dangerous game, they usually had a gun bearer to carry right there beside you carrying that thing. And then when you got close to game, you would take it, but you didn't have to lug it by yourself all day. These days, PHs are generally carrying their rifles, and they carry them a lot like this, just to vary things. And without a scope on it, it makes it pretty handy to work with this rifle. And this carry allows you to control the muzzle quite well. You can see where it's pointing and control it with your hand right on it, whereas carries like this, which we generally tend to do somewhere over the shoulder, where you can start to tip it back a little bit, and then you turn around to say, what did you say? And you end up swinging that muzzle where you're not seeing where it's pointing. So just a little aside on what goes on over there. I think we've got her handled. Now, the proof is in the pudding. Does this thing shoot? Well, obviously Ward over at Park West, after they built this thing, shot some pretty nice groups with this ammo that he sent me, so I should be able to duplicate that. Let's see if I actually can. Guys, I tend to, well, I suggest that you test your rifle with rounds without firing it before you actually fire. You know, just your basic, how does this rifle work, get familiar with it. And obviously one thing you want to make darn sure of is that your bore is clear. Nice. Knew it was, but always good to do that. And then just see if it holds with the rounds that it's supposed to. This one is advertised as holding 4 down plus 1, which means you can get 1 chambered. We already demonstrated that, but what I want to do is just see how well this rifle handles that. As we saw earlier, it was a little bit challenging to get that round down far enough. Okay, clears the bolt face. Now a lot of guys will say, oh my gosh, on one of these controlled on feed actions with that big leaf spring out there, you're going to snap that if you push it over the cartridge. It's not designed to go over it. Yes, it is. They have a bevel on the face of it, so it will snap over. I don't know if you can see that little bevel right there, but that is beveled down enough to slide over. Let me see if I can get that thing out of the way. There you can see the bevel on the face of it. That will slide over easily. So I have now one in, and I am not going to shoot. I just want to see if it will. Yes. And I did that over the grass. I don't want to do it on the gravel and the rocks and ding up the ammunition. But I'm now going to have to clean that stuff. I don't want to be putting dirty ammo in. But that just goes to show you how strong that is to take that big 500 grain bullet out of there with a full load. If it can do that, it's going to handle the empties just fine. All right, we've got the Garmin chronograph set up to see how fast this thing is going. We're going to be shooting the 500 grain Barnes triple shocks here. I do not know if this rifle is zeroed. I got it. This is hopefully the factory had it zeroed, but looks to me like it might be off a bit. I think I'm going to take this down, keep my hand under that. Yeah, that should work. Need to control the recoil on this baby. Now that red dot covers the entire center bowl. But it's a pretty good sight picture. Let's just give it a try. Got a round in there, ready to go. That'll wake you up. 2,159 feet per second. So we're not going to get our 5,800 foot-pounds of energy out of that load. I could see a day's worth of shooting. This would give you quite a headache. .54.8. Call that one 2155. Pretty consistent stuff. Now, if you guys do not relish sitting on a bench like this, shooting a big kicker, get a standing bench. I actually have legs for this. This is a Stookie bench, and you can get standing legs, and I have them. I'm just too lazy to put them on. I figured with a brake on here and a past recoil pad, I could handle this. But I could see the advantage now that I've fired a couple of times. Wouldn't hurt my feelings at all to have that standing bench. Wow, that is something. I could tell you definitely would feel a lot better if I didn't have this bench under me and leaning forward. Standing up, you rock back pretty nicely with these. But that one was 2173, so my average was 2162. We'll run some numbers on the ballistics on that, but I want to go down there and see what that target looks like. All right, that is a pretty nice little group. There are two here and one here. Of course, I was aiming here. As I said, my red dot was covering it like this. Pretty much all of that. So obviously it is not exactly zeroed, but boy, it's close enough to give me an idea how this thing will group. 50-yard shot, of course. Don't think that I've just shot a sub-MOA group. That's going to double. That's going to open up at 100 yards. But again, this is typically what you're doing is shooting at 25 to maybe 80 yards on dangerous game and after with one of these big kickers. But let's try the solids now and see where they land in comparison and see if I do as well as Ward did. And about 3 more shots is all the old shoulder wants to take. All right, that was a pretty nice group. Let's see what the solids do. According to Ward's target, he was hitting in the same place. And then that's what you want traditionally in a dangerous game rifle, in case you want to shoot with a soft point and then a solid to back it up. But with these Barnes hollow point triple shot style bullets, you really get 2 in 1. All right, get ready to get thumped here, Mr. Spomer. Oh yeah, baby. 2269.9, that's 2270. That is putting out some firepower. Woo! Big round nose, solid. Wow, 2270. I'd be pretty impressed if it's hitting in the same place. Oh, mama. I wouldn't want to face too many buffalo in a day. Tell you what though, having shot 458 Lott at buffalo, I never even knew that rifle went off. It is really amazing. You will always hear that, but it's absolutely true. 2241.6 on that one. All right, here is our last shot, unless we shoot some moving objects for fun. 2262. Average is 2257.8. We'll call it 2258. 2258. That's going to give us some horsepower right there, guys. Man. Well, let's go down to that target and see how it looks. There it is, guys. 3 more shots. Look at that. Wow. A little bit higher than the hollow points, the Barnes X bullets, but these solids are really grouping well. And incredible velocity. What horsepower. So I think you just adjust that sight and imagine what you could do with a scope if you really wanted to shoot for precision. It's kind of crazy to think a big old horse kicking rifle like this could shoot that well, but I'll bet you I could shoot sub MOA with a scope on this thing out at 100 yards. But hey, there's your 458 dangerous game rifle if you want to have some fun. 458 Lott in a SD-76 from Park West Arms. They do not call this the Professional. That was the original. Dakota was calling it the Professional. They are calling it the Bushveldt. So if you're looking for a good African hunting rifle for dangerous game or any of the big stuff, check out the SD-76 Bushveldt from Park West Arms. I think you'll get a kick out of it. Well, guys, before I quit, I just couldn't resist taking a 100-yard shot to see what sort of drop we get from this thing. Going to go for the old solid since that thing was smoking out there. This might represent finishing shot on a buffalo that you've hit well and he's running away and you're putting one up the backside. That's where your solid would really come in handy. And that guy might be out there at 100 yards by the time you get around to it, or pick him out of the brush. So that's what we'll do. One more belt in the chops here. .2272. Raised my average to 2261 and a half. Those guys are shooting. And then I think we'll shoot a couple of water jugs to imitate charging buffalo. I'll put one out there at about 50 yards or so, maybe another one in at 30, and I'll see how quickly I can cycle this thing and recover from that first muzzle blast. We'll maybe get an idea of the time and whether or not I can hit anything. Charging water jugs coming up. All right, let's pretend I'm shooting a buffalo. Out there at 50 yards, I've got a little jug. Know if I can hit it, but I'm going to pretend that's my buffalo, and then he's going to charge me up to this closer judge and try to hit that guy. Wish me luck, man. I hope I don't flinch. Oh, come on, baby. Got to lean into this thing too, babe. Got him! Whew! Just in time. He would have trampled us. There's your 458 Lott in action, guys. Small buffalo, but we saved ourselves. The other thing I want to do before I begin shooting is test that trigger a few times. Make sure that rifle's unloaded and just get a feel for it. Oh yeah, nice, easy trigger. Yeah, that's feeling like about crisp and 2.5 pounds perhaps. We'll check all that stuff out for you guys. We'll get a weight on it. We'll get the barrel length. Just look to me like, take that muzzle brake off and we've got about a 22 or 23 inch barrel on here. So we'll get her all figured out and put some numbers up for you. Well, there's the 458 Lott in the Park West Arms SD-76 Bushveldt Rifle. Heck of a performer. And I can promise you, those two offhand shots hardly felt the recoil. Really makes a difference when you get off that bench. So go for a big bore, hunt honest, and shoot it straight.